Heavy tension in Finland as Finnish citizens protest for the release of Biafra Prime Minister Simon Ekpa. There is significant unrest in Finland as citizens protest, demanding the release of Simon Ekpa, a politician of Biafran origin. Simon Ekpa is a veteran of the Finnish military and has held political positions in Finland. Finnish citizens are questioning their government, specifically President Alexander Stubb, regarding Simon Ekpa's alleged detention. Protesters claim that Simon Ekpa's rights have been violated and that injustice against one person affects everyone. Meanwhile, some activists are calling for worldwide peaceful protests at Finnish embassies to pressure the Finnish government. However, there are conflicting reports on whether Simon Ekpa is actually in Finland or elsewhere. Many protesters accuse the Finnish government of cooperating with Nigeria government for political or economic reasons. Some activists suggest shutting down Finnish embassies through non-stop protests to ensure Simon Ekpa's release. Social media campaigns are pressuring the Finnish President Alexander Stubb, with claims that Finland is supporting Nigeria against Biafrans. I remember the day the news broke out about the intense protests in Finland like it was yesterday. I was sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of hot tea, the steam curling up into the cool Finnish morning air, when I heard that something extraordinary was happening in the heart of this peaceful Nordic country. Finnish citizens, known for their calm and measured ways, had taken to the streets in a wave of emotion and determination. The entire atmosphere in Finland had shifted. There was a heavy tension in the air as thousands of people gathered together, united by a single purpose. They were demanding the immediate release of a very significant figure, Prime Minister Simon Ekpa of Biafra. I had heard bits and pieces of the story before, but as the details began to unfold, it all started to feel like I was part of a grand unfolding drama. You see, Prime Minister Simon Ekpa was not just any politician. He was a man with a long and distinguished history in Finland. He had served his country both as a veteran in the Finnish army and as a dedicated public servant holding various political offices. His journey from a respected soldier to a political leader was one that resonated deeply with many Finnish citizens, who saw in him a symbol of loyalty, honor, and the right to stand up for what is just. It seemed almost unbelievable that a man who had given so much of his life to serve Finland could find himself in such a dire situation. The news reported that Simon Ekpa had been detained under circumstances that many believed were entirely unjust. Finnish citizens, with hearts full of passion and voices raised in unison, demanded answers from their government. They questioned President Alexander Stubb and the other authorities, wondering why such a venerable leader was being held against his will. In their eyes, the detention of Prime Minister Simon Ekpa was not just an isolated event. It was a stark reminder that if the rights of one person were violated, the rights of all citizens were at risk. I remember how the protesters took to the streets with a palpable sense of urgency and righteous anger. There was an air of determination, a feeling that something deeply important was at stake. The protesters believed that the injustice faced by Prime Minister Simon Ekpa was a betrayal of the values that Finland had long stood for, a betrayal of fairness, human dignity, and the principle that every citizen's rights must be respected. It wasn't simply about one man, it was about the fundamental notion that if one person's rights were trampled, then the safety and freedom of the entire community were in jeopardy. The protests themselves were unlike anything I had ever seen in Finland before. Traditionally known for their reserved nature, the Finnish people were now channeling all their pent-up frustrations into a powerful, collective action. I vividly recall watching footage of the streets filled with passionate citizens holding placards, their faces etched with worry and determination. They marched not only in the major cities but in towns and neighborhoods across the country, their voices echoing through the cold air, calling for justice and demanding that the authorities explain what was happening with Prime Minister Simon Ekpa. One of the most striking aspects of this protest was the way it had spread beyond the boundaries of Finland. There were reports of calls for peaceful protests at Finnish embassies around the world. Activists and concerned citizens had taken to social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook to organize and spread their message, urging supporters to gather in front of Finnish embassies in Europe, America, and beyond. The sentiment was clear. If the government did not act swiftly to secure the freedom of Prime Minister Simon Ekpa, then the international community would soon be witnessing a coordinated, non-violent uprising that could not be ignored. I found myself deeply moved by the passion of these protesters. Their messages, posted in Finnish and translated for international audiences, conveyed a simple yet powerful truth. Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. I recall one particular message posted by a person named Kazaka Kuga on Twitter. In that message, Kazaka Kuga challenged the government directly, asking President Alexander Stubb to clarify why Simon Ekpa was being detained. The message was not couched in the polite language of political debate. It was raw, it was direct, and it left no room for ambiguity. It was a call to action that resonated with thousands of people who shared the same belief in fairness and human rights. As I read through the messages and watched the videos of the protests, it became evident that the issue was much more complicated than a simple case of wrongful detention. Many of the protesters accused the Finnish government of acting in collusion with the Nigerian government, suggesting that there were hidden political or economic motives behind the detention of Prime Minister Simon Ekpa. The argument went that while Finland prided itself on being a bastion of fairness and transparency, it had, in this instance, chosen to align its interests with those of another nation, Nigeria, in a way that was perceived as deeply troubling by its own citizens. I found it hard to reconcile the image of Finland as a peaceful, neutral country with the harsh accusations being hurled by its own people. Yet the protests were proof that the citizens were not willing to accept what they saw as an injustice. The narrative that emerged was one of deep betrayal. For many, Simon Ekpa was not merely a political figure. He was a symbol of the struggle against oppression and the embodiment of the hope that even in the darkest times, a dedicated leader could inspire a nation to stand up for what was right. His military background, his political achievements, and his commitment to the people of Biafra and Finland alike had earned him a special place in the hearts of many. That his rights were being compromised was something that they simply could not allow to pass without a fight. There was also a fascinating dynamic in how the protesters talked about the issue. In informal gatherings on street corners and during spontaneous conversations, people spoke with a raw sincerity. They recounted personal anecdotes about the pride they felt for their nation and the disappointment they experienced when its values seemed to be compromised. I listened to one protester explain that for him, the issue was not about political affiliations or personal loyalties. It was about the basic human right to be treated fairly and with dignity. He explained that if a veteran who had given his life to serve Finland could be detained without a clear explanation or recourse, then what did that say about the state of justice in his own country? It was a question that lingered in the air, heavy and unresolved. As the day wore on, the protests grew larger and more organized. There were reports of groups of citizens planning to organize peaceful rallies at Finnish embassies across the globe. I recall hearing that activists were calling for non-stop protests, peaceful demonstrations that would last for an entire week at embassies in Europe and America. The idea was simple yet profound. By turning the embassies into symbols of resistance, the protesters hoped to send a clear message to the Finnish government that they would no longer stand by passively while a trusted leader was denied his freedom. They believed that by uniting their voices, they could force a dialogue with President Alexander Stubb and the other high-ranking officials responsible for the decision. I found myself thinking about the broader implications of this movement. It wasn't merely about the fate of one man, it was about the future of democracy and justice in Finland. The protesters argued passionately that if the rights of one person could be violated with such impunity, then the very fabric of society was at risk. They saw the detention of Prime Minister Simon Ekpa as a harbinger of a more authoritarian future, a future in which the government could disregard the rights of its citizens without fear of retribution. The cries for justice echoed not just in the streets, but also in social media posts, letters to the government, and heated discussions in local cafes and community centers. Every conversation, every post, every public gathering was imbued with the urgency of a people who believed that their country's soul was at stake. In one particularly emotional video clip, a passionate speaker explained that injustice to one was, in fact, injustice to all. He spoke in a tone that was both gentle and insistent, urging his fellow citizens to remember that the strength of a nation lay in its commitment to fairness and equality. His words, simple yet powerful, resonated deeply with those who had gathered that day. He reminded them that every right violated was a scar on the collective conscience of the nation, and that it was their duty to stand up, not just for Simon Ekpa, but for every citizen who might one day find themselves in a similar situation. I remember feeling a lump in my throat as I listened to him, aware that his message was more than just political rhetoric. It was a heartfelt plea for justice and a call to uphold the very principles that defined a civilized society. There were also voices among the protesters who expressed frustration at what they saw as the failure of the government to adequately explain or justify the detention of Prime Minister Simon Ekpa. They questioned why a man who had served in the Finnish military and contributed so much to the nation's political landscape was now being treated as if he were an enemy of the state. One particularly moving account came from an elderly citizen who had seen Finland through many historical upheavals. He recalled times when the nation had stood together in the face of adversity, and he lamented that now, in this modern era, those same values of unity and fairness seemed to be fading. His words carried the weight of decades of experience, and they struck a chord with everyone who heard them. As the day turned to evening, the atmosphere in Finland remained charged with energy and resolve. The protesters did not seem willing to let up. Instead, they vowed to continue their demonstrations until they received satisfactory answers. There was a sense of camaraderie among them, a feeling that they were all part of something much larger than themselves. I could see the determination in their eyes and the strength in their voices, and I couldn't help but feel that this was a moment of historical significance. The movement was not just about one individual, it was about a collective assertion of rights, a refusal to accept a status quo that they felt was deeply unjust. In the midst of the protest, there were many conversations about the role of social media in amplifying their message. Activists were using every tool at their disposal, Twitter, Facebook, online forums, to spread the word and mobilize support. I remember reading one post that said something along the lines of, "If you believe in justice for Prime Minister Simon Ekpa, then let your voice be heard. Stand with us, protest with us, and let the world know that injustice will not be tolerated." These online messages were powerful, sparking debates and discussions among people from all walks of life. They brought together young and old, professionals and students, all united by the belief that the detention of Simon Ekpa was an affront to the values of fairness and human dignity. I also heard that there were conflicting reports about the exact whereabouts of Prime Minister Simon Ekpa. Some sources claimed that he was still in Finland, held against his will by the authorities, while others suggested that he might have been moved to another location. This uncertainty only added fuel to the fire, as the protesters demanded transparency from their government. They wanted to know exactly where he was being held, under what conditions and what charges, if any, had been brought against him.
There is a serious tension in Finland. There is a serious tension in Finland. The Finland citizens, I'm not talking about the government, they are now rallying around to support the leader of the United States of Biafra, or rather the Prime Minister of the United States of Biafra, Simon Ekpa, who is one of them, who have decided a long time ago that I have said no to the contraction called Nigeria as his country and embrace Finland with all their traditions and everything in them. He is a politician in Finland. He has worked in the Finland army. He has won what they call it, county election, or rather as a councillor or whatever it being. But he's a real politician in Finland, and they also a veteran in their military. So now the Finland citizens now have begun to ask questions on their president, which is Dr. Alexander Stubb, to explain to them what is the really problem with the so-called allegations being leveled against Simon Ekpa by the so-called. As I was saying, my people, this is a country that is working, and a country where every citizen knows that when one right is violated, automatically everybody's rights have been violated. According to one preacher the other time said, Nigerians, not Nigeria, Nigerians supposed to be the one protesting for the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, because an injustice to one is an injustice to all. But for the fact that the so-called country is not one nation, that is a different nation under one umbrella, it's not going to work. Because if Hausa man come to speak for the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, Yoruba man will say no. Yoruba man speak, Hausa man will say no. If Hausa man speak again, Fulani will come and say you are a terrorist because you are calling for Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's release. Whereas the so-called Fulanis are the one who are busy recruiting Fulanis into the military, calling them repentant Boko Haram. So now, Finnish people or citizens is now rallying around, calling for the release of Mazi Simon Ekpa, or all of them is going to shut the country down. That is what is happening now. The message is being posted in a Finland news outlet, one of their newspapers. Let me read what is being said there. A Finnish citizen has asked Alexander Stubb at Alex questions on X, which is Twitter, over the detention of Biafra Prime Minister Simon Ekpa. Biafrans and the world at large, we need answers. Look at what is being said. Somebody who posted that the message on Twitter is Kajakuka. Kajakuka, you can as well Google it. The message is very, very clear there. Let it not be you say it's a propaganda. The poster of that message who asked this question is Kazakuga. He said, could you still tell the finest people who you are holding, who is Simon Ekpa, whose release you are calling for quite conspicuously with a large group of people with foreign backgrounds in your updates? It is starting to get a bit strange. We need answers, or we are going to shut down this country. And according to the translation, yes, it said, was this translation accurate? Give us feedback so we can improve, because the message was being posted in Finnish, or in Finnish, sorry, Finnish, in Finnish language. So, what do you have to tell about this matter? Let us dissect the comment section to know what my people think concerning this Obonga issue where they ground now. Because even the so-called Igbos or the Biafrans are not even bothered about holding their own. Just like what I said last time, that I support this system of peaceful protest among all the whole Biafrans. Not in the zoo, because there they will use armored tanker, and in fact they will have opportunity to reduce the populations of the Biafrans. In any civilized country, as a Biafran and we have license office there, we need to call for a peaceful protest with a placards direct to Finland embassies worldwide. Emphasis on worldwide, except the country that don't accept protest. Like most Asian countries don't accept protest. most Asian countries don't accept protest. The same way in the country where I'm residing, they don't accept protest because they are too scared of war to break out again. If you understand what I mean. So what am I saying? We need to do this ASAP. As the citizens of Finland is calling for the release of Mazi Simon Ekpa, calling the government to do the needful or they will shut the country down. That is the same way I, Okute, or Okulora One Nation, is calling everywhere, meaning Biafra, in all the whole countries that we have licensed office that are being registered and government is aware of it, we need to protest. And then as much as long as Finland have consulate in that very particular country, this is part of the process we are going to initiate to make these people understand that they are truly holding somebody who is dear to the heart of every Biafrans out there. I mean the real Biafrans, not saboteurs. So if you agree with me, then let us discuss the process at the comment section. And if you are in any country that we have a license office that have been registered under the government of that very particular country, please indicate at the comment section, and we are going to organize the rally. As the people, any day that these people are going to rally in Finland, that is the day we all are going to take our placards and organize a peaceful rally. But first of all, you need to get what they call you need to write a formal letter to the so-called local police of the area where you are residing to get their permit and to make sure that everything is working in accuracy. Ngwa, make gonna help me. To Sarah Mozia with Akane Nakegwe, eh? Daniel Chika said we have to find out first whether Simon Ekpa is in Finland or somewhere else. Have anybody been hearing from Simon Ekpa, either from Ngozi or from the acting Mumu Prime Minister? Okay, Chukunkere. Nobody have ever told us here, except Mariani, who come to tell us that he spent hours with Simon Ekpa, Keneko. But anyway, let us move. If Simon Ekpa have moved out of Finland, I think the local newspaper is going to attest to that, or rather the local police will also go to attest to that. And according to this, Simon Ekpa parody said, the finest people are getting our messages to their biased president. It is time to bombard this timeline even more ruthlessly. Machala said at Alex Tobe, we Biafrans need to know why you are still holding Simon Ekpa. What crime did he commit? At Alex Tobe, answer us. Ofo said we never start. Before that match, his timeline will go full by real Biafran tagging him. Samson John said you are wasting your time. Shouldn't you know how much he has received for doing this? Is Prime Minister Simon Ekpa not his own friend? Exactly, his own friend. This man is a very big betrayal, but he at last revealed his true color. Even a blind, deaf, and dumb person knows completely the good Simon Ekpa represents. So no stories attached. Kekalo said at Alex, answer this question, and we need answers ASAP. Akeson said no better way to make these people uncomfortable than to arrange for non-stop protests in Europe and America. Exactly what I said. Let Biafran march to every Finnish embassy in Europe and America and occupied there. Just 1 week, non-stop. Let's see if our Prime Minister will not be released by fire by force. Because this thing happened, it seems like we are docile. Even the Biafrans that are living in Europe and America, nobody is saying anything. Everybody is just calm. Rather, we are busy dragging office. We are busy dragging who is legitimate and who is not legitimate. This thing, I have said this thing before countless times. Let there be a peaceful protest. If we can shut down the embassy for complete good 1 week, peacefully, my brother, these people will do the needful. They will know that they are holding somebody who is dear to the hearts of every over 55 to 60 million Biafrans out there who voted for secession from Nigeria. Peter P. said at Alex Tobe, please answer Biafrans. Simon Ekpa parody said, please, at Doliwane, unblock me. I have done nothing wrong to you. Probably you mistaken me for someone else. Go through my timeline. Who they talk this one? Colossal said, let's show her Biafran love. Crazy Baby said, love this. Truthful Flower, thanks for speaking for us. SMMG, interesting topic. Ferdinand Onyebuchi, a person protecting his people, commit no crime at Alex Stove. Michael Francis is holding our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa in his prison. Please, sir, release him for us. Our elders are dying because you are holding our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa in your custody. Mele 247 Okukwa said, at Alex, Stove is a corrupt man with no conscience. God will deal with him last. Jemima Great said he's getting internet. Oh, you're getting interest now, not internet, my brother or my sister. You made a mistake. Wanchuku David, Finnish. Okay, he said Finnish, but Finnish is working with Nigerian terrorist government to kill the indigenous people of Biafra, all because of their selfish interest in Biafra oil. Finland is not what the world thinks of them. At real Donald Trump, at CC, or rather at CNNI, at European Union _Commission, and at Putin _ON or _Putin, according to him. Afonwa said at Alex on nice. This one, right? What do they call it? He write Finnish. I be Finnish. Ala said at Alex Stove is a terrorist supporter of Nigeria. Hey, Ose Tigono, Rono Madabuchi. Austin Mark said you are very heartless and wicked at Alex Stove. Now, Alex, if you know hear this, if your mind no change after seeing all this message, then that means you are not a human being. Adobe said at Alex Stove, he want free oil and gas from the zoo, but he will be disappointed. Honor Josephine, at Alex Stove, it is not about sentiment on the Biafrans. It is all about saving lives. You as the Prime Minister takes care of your people, but we the Biafrans are being castigated and neglected. For humanity's sake, release him and stop this idiotic behavior. Bada says story keep zuzuing. Okay. Chizoba James. Finnish governments are so foolish. Look at how Biafrans are preparing better things for them and they mess everything up, thinking that Biafra will allow them to take oil after betray Biafrans. They are just jokers. They are jokers. Akowa Dan said last on I go force Alex to angry handover on a criminal minister to Nigerian government. They play on I go force Alex, Abi. Okay, if now to make somebody angry, they have abused your so-called president, even calling him a drug lord. Why you never blow off the country? Nara. Eze Luko King Boy said more people will ask the questions. We only request to release His Excellency Simon Ekpa Njoko, the BG, or rather the USB Prime Minister. Steve Mayor said at Alex Stove, a man of your standards, strives yourself so low to be used by terrorist Nigerian government. Your country at Finland government will become just like Nigeria very soon because you at Alex Stove love terrorists. That is why you lock our Prime Minister at Simon Ekpa Njoko. Ezego said at Alex Stove, why did you still holding our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa, who have done everything as a good leader to make sure terrorists Boko Haram, ISIS, and jihadists Fulani herdsmen that have killed millions of innocent Christians in Nigeria didn't conquer Biafrans? Is self-defense a crime? Please answer us. Chidindu Stanley said, my people everywhere. Stanley Eze said, the blood of the innocent Christians killed by Nigerian terrorist state is on your head, Alex Stove. So
this is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.